Massive river rats tearing up lakes in Texas. At least that's what the headline screamed. But on the other side of the world, another kind of rodent was quietly making history. Not an invasion, but a resurrection. In the forgotten wetlands of Britain, a creature that once vanished into silence was starting to return. Not a rat, not quite, but something far more important. This is the story of the water vole, and how a handful of muddy paws reshaped an entire ecosystem. They used to be everywhere. Along canals, creeks, and sleepy English brooks, water voles, small, furry, and shy, dug their homes deep into the riverbanks. They burrowed, foraged, squeaked. People called them ratty, thanks to the wind in the willows. But behind the charm was a vital role. These rodents were ecosystem engineers, keystone species, the quiet architects of the wetlands. And then they disappeared. By the 1990s, over 95% of Britain's water voles were gone. Entire colonies, once thriving, reduced to whispers in the reeds. In places like Cornwall, the last known populations collapsed completely. Why? 2 words: habitat loss and a silent killer. After World War II, Britain reshaped its land in a desperate push for food and growth. Wetlands were drained, rivers straightened, farmland expanded. The slow, winding streams the voles relied on vanished under concrete and crops. But worse was coming. In the 1960s, the American mink, sleek, fast, and foreign, escaped from fur farms. Some broke free on their own, others were released by animal rights activists unaware of the havoc they'd unleash. Mink were predators unlike anything native species had ever faced. They could swim, climb, and slip into the very tunnels the voles once considered safe. No burrow was secure, no nest out of reach. Entire water vole colonies were wiped out in weeks. And just like that, Ratty was gone. It could have ended there, just another ecological obituary. But in 2022, deep in the reed-choked fields of Trellisback Farm, Cornwall, a group of conservationists were planning something radical. They weren't looking to save a species, they were trying to revive an entire ecosystem. Mossy Earth, an environmental nonprofit, joined forces with Kurnow Conservation. Together, they dug old ponds back into existence, cleared invasive species, and reshaped forgotten fields into prime vole habitat. But most important, they waged war on mink. Through tireless trapping and monitoring, they created a mink-free zone, a safe haven where voles could once again thrive. And then, with gloved hands and nervous hope, they opened the cages. One by one, 135 water voles were released into the wild. Some bolted straight into the water, vanishing beneath lily pads. Others hesitated, sniffing the unfamiliar air. A few bit their handlers, reminding everyone these were not pets. They were wild, they were ready, and they were hungry for a second chance. At first, there were no headlines, no big announcements, just the quiet sound of digging. The voles burrowed into the riverbanks with a determination that stunned scientists. Each tunnel shifted the earth, blocking water here, redirecting flow there. New pools formed, slow channels returned, and life began to follow. Vegetation started to change. Plants that hadn't flourished in decades took root again. The voles, grazing constantly, cleared space for biodiversity to surge. Insects returned, frogs croaked, birdsong filled the air. The wetland wasn't just surviving, it was rewriting itself. Where prey goes, predators follow. Soon, herons stalked the shallow banks again, waiting with ancient patience. Otters, once starving, now hunted with grace and vigor. Even sparrowhawks were spotted carrying voles in their talons, a painful sight for conservationists, but also a sign. The food web was back. And then, at night, a silent shadow glided overhead. An owl, wings stretched, scanning the reeds, waiting for a rustle, a twitch, a meal. For the first time in years, nature's balance was in motion again. But one threat never left the horizon: mink. The war against them became relentless. Conservationists deployed floating mink rafts, clever devices that recorded footprints in the mud. One set of prints could trigger an all-out response. Traps were laid, patrols were sent. No sign of mink meant the experiment could continue. But the work was exhausting. Volunteers trained for weeks to tell the difference between vole droppings and mink scat. Every trail, every mark became a clue in a quiet battle to protect what had been rebuilt. The story didn't end in Cornwall. In South Wales, over 300 captive bred voles were released into the River Thaw. Signs of breeding appeared within months. Tiny footprints nibbled reeds, fresh tunnels. In Hampshire, more than 2,800 water voles were released over a decade. By 2024, over 2,500 signs of activity were recorded, including 20 confirmed breeding sites. And in every location, the pattern held. Where the voles returned, life exploded. Plants flourished, water cleared, predators came back. Even nitrate levels in the water dropped, thanks to burrows aerating the soil, creating natural filters that held back chemical runoff. One species returned, triggered a transformation no one fully predicted. They called him Ratty, but he was never just a character from a children's book. Arvicola amphibius had nearly slipped into extinction, choked by human progress, hunted by foreign predators, forgotten by time. But now, in places like Trellisback Farm, school children kneel at the water's edge, hoping to catch a glimpse of brown fur in the reeds. Researchers study plant regrowth and monitor water chemistry, witnessing firsthand how nature can heal when given the chance. It started with 200 water voles. It ended with entire ecosystems reborn. We spend so much time talking about what's gone, but maybe the more powerful story is what can still come back. This wasn't just about saving a rodent. It was about rewiring a landscape, about finding hope in the soil, and remembering that even the smallest creature can reshape the world around it. So now the question is, should we be doing this everywhere? If one species can bring a river back to life, what else could we revive? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.